Yeah, I think I did. And yeah, include me. I am George. For those of you too that don't know me, I am George. I'm a Microsoft MVP and the cloud solution architect, currently working for Slalom. These are the ways to find me. This QR code over here, just scan it and you will go to this my me page or finding page. I don't know how you call it, and you will be able to contact me. By the way, since you are here and hopefully in Munich, just 1 minute about Slalom. Slalom is a huge consulting company, more than 13,000 people around the world. It's 45 markets, North America, Asia, Pacific, Europe. And the lucky thing is that Slalom starts now in Munich, actually in Germany. So it's like we are doing a startup with a few dollars of private funding. It's a very nice opportunity. And I'm saying that because we are actually searching for people, right? We are searching for the ones that we will base this thing, and at some point we will be a few hundreds here. Right now, we are around 30. Some of them are already here, but in Germany, we have this 3 months period notice. Some of them start September, so it's a process, let's say. If anyone is interested, yeah, find me here. How can I go back now? Find me here, yeah, like scan this or any of these social accounts, ping me, and we can arrange something. We can start talking, yeah. So, no reason to delay it any more. Jackson, you can start. I will stop presenting and I will actually switch off my camera, so we'll save some bandwidth. And yeah.
Okay,
The
yeah, let
virtuals.
me just share my screen.
Yes, I will stop presenting
So,
now.
yeah.
And I can see your screen. So I'm muting myself and I'm closing the camera and the stage is yours.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm Jackson Felden. I'm talking today here from Dublin, from Ireland. And thanks very much, George, for the invite and for the Munich.NET community. I'm really happy to spend the next hour or so here to share a bit of my experience, especially on security. The kind of the subject for today is Azure Information Protection in Microsoft Purview is a solution when it comes to protect data. And actually, there's a couple of busy slides, but the presentation is going to be a kind of mix between a few slides, and I will run loads of demos as well, just to see all of those things in action. Then it's always better than just spend time talking. Yeah, let's say as I was saying, Jackson Felden at the moment. I'm working as a let's say, senior cloud security consultant for a company called Avanade. And my day-to-day is pretty much help customers out there, usually customers here from Ireland and from the UK, to get better on security. I'm also a MVP on Microsoft Enterprise Mobility, and yeah, my day-to-day is all about Defender for Endpoint and data protection and data encryption and all of those things. You can find me on LinkedIn if you just search for Jackson Felden. I'll be happy to connect with you. And if you're looking for some content on security, I have a channel I started last year at some stage. And then basically all my day-to-day, the new things I'm learning, the new, let's say, requests the clients are looking for me to implement, I kind of replicate a little bit of that into my recording, and hopefully you can learn some bits from there as well. A busy
Feel free
slide I
to
started.
add
Yes.
the URL if you
Oh,
if
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
have it
yes.
in the
Let
chat, so
me.
we can all have it.
Yeah, good idea. Let me. Good question. Maybe I need to stop presenting or.
No, no, no.
Oh,
If you,
too late. No,
yeah,
that's
it's
fine. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, sorry guys. Yeah, if you just click on that, and then you should be able to connect. Okay, let's go back to business again. Here. Okay. Okay, I believe you can see my screen again. my slide?
No, I can see me.
Oops. Okay, let's start again. Uh, Sorry about that, guys. Oh, 1 second. Let me do it again. Share second screen. Okay, now should be fine. One
Yep.
second. Let me get my screen. Okay, I believe
Yep.
now we are back in business.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep. We
sorry
are.
about that, everybody. Yeah, anyway, very quickly, I started my professional career in 1991. And then, as you can see, yeah, pretty much I've been following the Microsoft path. I worked a lot on-prem with servers and Exchange Server and SharePoint and so on. But yeah, since 2013 was a time when I started with Office 365, 2015 when I started with Microsoft Azure. And then, let's say, since 2019, my pretty much 100% of my time has been security on different cloud solution. And the goal for today is to share a bit of my experience, and hopefully you guys can walk away with a better understanding when it comes to the some elements from the security. What I have prepped for today, between a couple of slides and loads of demos as well, is let's say 1 minute just to do a very quick intro on Zero Trust, and then let's dive straight into the main subject, that is the Microsoft Purview information protection. And then I will explore different key aspects from the three big pillars: the know your data, protect your data, and prevent data loss. And then my demos are going to be on top of protect your data and prevent data loss as well. That's what I have planned. Yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free, if you want to just unmute and ask the question, straight away. Otherwise, you can type on the chat box. I'm not seeing the chat box here in front of me, but and then if George could keep your eye on the questions, I'm more than happy to answer the questions when they come. Or if you want to keep
Definitely.
at the end, that's fine. Anyway, as I
Definitely.
said, very quickly, when it comes to the zero trust, basically, it's not really a new kind of, approach anymore. But since the cloud became, very popular for the last couple of years, the old approach where everybody thought, oh yeah, if we have a good antivirus and a good firewall, yeah, everything is behind the firewall, everything is protected. We can go and kind of sleep well in the night, and everything's fine. Now in these days, data is everywhere, is on the file server, is on the cloud, multi-cloud, and so on. And then the approach when we talk about antivirus and firewall is definitely not enough anymore. And then the zero trust from Microsoft, there are six pillars: identity, device, let's say endpoint or device management, networking, infrastructure, and apps. And my goodness, I could keep talking about that now for the next probably week or so. But the goal for today is to explore, I wouldn't say a deep dive, but I will do my best in here when it comes to a couple of things we can do to protect our data when talking about emails, files, and things like that. Pretty much I will talk about classify, label, and very important as well in encryption. Okay, and yeah, the idea from zero trust is never never trust, always verify. And it means every time when somebody is logging in, or there is a request coming from a computer, the check shouldn't be done only when the user is logging in the morning. No, the access should be verified pretty much every time. But anyway, let's as a long story, let's focus on data. Okay. Anyway, I think on probably you came across this information before. Maybe these days a little bit old as well. I haven't got a new number from Microsoft, but I got from Microsoft slides maybe back in 2019, 2018, could be 58% of the users by accident, they share information with the external people or with the wrong external people. They send sensitive data to a wrong person. They shared from SharePoint or OneDrive or Google Drive or whatever. They share important files with wrong destinations. And if the protection is not in place, it really can be a disaster. And this is why I prep this presentation. Eventually, if that happens with you or anybody on your organization, with the controls I'm going to show today, we can actually avoid the sensitive key data in leaving the organization to a wrong, let's say, destination. That's the whole goal for today. And yeah, as I already said, the data now is only, and that is not only behind a file or in a file server, is, everywhere in different places. This is why the zero trust is very important. Okay, now officially, let's do a good dive into the protection controls available on Microsoft. Maybe in the past you came across with the old name, Microsoft Information Protection. And as you know, Microsoft basically keep changing the names, sorry, time by time. Now the new name, the new official name is Microsoft Purview Information Protection. Everything I will tell you today and the demos I will perform here as well, of course, guys, unfortunately, is not, let's say, free, and the capabilities are not available on the basic Office 365 subscription. At the end, I can show a kind of, table where you can identify all the resources available on each of the licenses. But for example, I will use one of them, that is the Azure Information Protection, that is kind of part of the Microsoft Purview Information Protection to do auto protection. Eventually I will show how to set the controls, and if the system finds the pattern that identifies, I don't know, could be a client contract, could be a file containing company credit card, or kind of some sensitive data. The data can be protected, and eventually, if anybody managed to try to copy that data or steal that data, I would say it's not really a big deal, because those guys, they won't have access to that file. I will give some more details later. But to implement a whole control, the first step is, of course, to understand the infrastructure, where your data is at the moment, between file servers, maybe Azure storage, OneDrive, SharePoint, and could be some third-party solutions as well, Google Drive and Dropbox and all of those things. Okay, that's, in order to implement the controls, you need to understand where the data is. Of course, we can implement controls as well to avoid people in saving key company data on Dropbox, on, let's say, unauthorized locations like Dropbox, Google Drive, and so on. And of course, we need to identify, because in order to do the protection, we might need to use different elements. If everything is on Microsoft Cloud, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's much easier. If eventually some key data are still on-prem, yeah, then we need some kind of extensions of the protection for on-prem. If part of the data is on kind of, AWS or Google, yeah, then we are talking about multi-cloud, and things get kind of, more and more complex. Okay, second step, that's a big part of my presentation now, is, of course, protect your data. Okay, I want to make sure all the company sensitive data, whatever the data is, could be client contract, could be, credit card, as I said, and so on. I want the system be able to add visual marking. It means when the user is talking, is kind of working with an Excel or Word file or something that is sensitive, I want the system to add a watermark saying, sensitive data detected, or, credit card detected, don't share, things like that. All of those visual markings in encryption can be done automatically. if you have the controls in place and if you have the license in place as well, as I will show you later. Okay, this is, let's say, step number one. Make sure key data is encrypted. And the beauty of that, guys, is, let me tell you a quick story. Let's say one of the employees is leaving the organization and, really bad thing, but the guy decided to bring an external hard disk to copy as much data he can to kind of, take with him to the next job. If that person, stick a USB, copy all the sensitive data to external hard disk and then go home and then eventually call the company saying, I got hired and I don't want to work for this organization anymore. By the time the IT guys disable his account, basically he lose access to the protected data. It doesn't matter if the data is on Microsoft, is on a USB stick, Google Drive, it doesn't matter. Next time when that user try to open a file, the file need to talk back to the Microsoft tenant. If the account is disabled or deleted or something big happens, basically the user won't have access, won't be able to open those files. And the access is very granular. We can say, yeah, we want to allow only read only. And then only read only really means read only. No printing, no forward by email, no screenshots, no changing, and things like that. This is what we can implement in here. Okay, in addition to the protection layer, the next step is to do the data, what we call data loss prevention. I want to make sure my users, if they try to share a sensitive file with an external user via, sharing via OneDrive or SharePoint, it doesn't work. If the user try to send via email as an attachment, it doesn't work. If the user try to maybe send via Teams, could be even from the chat box, it doesn't work. And if we implement the endpoint data loss prevention, we can avoid the user copying sensitive data into an external disk, as a USB stick and things like that. This is part of my presentation as well. At the end, I will do a demo on that. And finally, is all about data governance. It means, the company, for compliance, maybe they need to keep some data at least for 7 years. It depends the law on each country. And then we can implement controls as well over files and emails. If somebody try on purpose to delete file or to make changes on the file, is not possible because the file is locked for 7 years. After 7 years, again, depends the policy, the system could, release the file, keep maybe for 6 more months, and then automatically delete the file. On the other hand, we could set controls, as maybe your organization already have, for emails or files or pretty much anything. Emails older than 2 years will be auto-deleted. Or first they go to an archive place after 1 year, after 1 more year, and then they are deleted. This is just the tip of the iceberg when we are talking about the Microsoft Purview information protection. And in these, let's say, 2 pillars, where I'm going to explain, some more details. It's still kind of a long story to try to fit everything on the next kind of, hour or so. I will try to be objective and focus on 2, 3 key elements in here. And of course, if eventually you need to take your organization to the next level, you can always, go and do some more kind of digging, some more study, yourself. But that's a kind of the tip of the iceberg, just to set the scene. Now let's explore, especially these 2 pillars: protect your data and prevent data loss as well. Okay, in order for us to kind of implement protection and set the data loss prevention, the first idea is, of course, know your data, and then everything starts with pretty much what I will show in a few seconds: the sensitive information types. If I can remember from last night, when I was kind of just reviewing the slides, getting ready for today, there are already 200 I think I will give the number, around 260 different, let's say, templates to identify key data. For example, passport numbers, not only the UK, EU passport numbers, EU credit cards, EU home addresses. And, I can bet I'm sure there are some key elements for Germany, for Ireland, for the UK, and so on. And then using those sensitive information type, we use them to build the rules to auto detect files and emails and Teams chats and so on. And from there, we take the action to auto protect or to mark the content and to block as well. Okay. On top of that, sensitive info type, really interesting. Microsoft, I think, released this last year, if I have a good memory, the trainable classifier. Basically, the idea here is to use the power of machine learning to identify data, the pattern of data. Let me give an example. Let's say we want to auto-classify and protect thousands of client contracts. Okay, they are sensitive. I want to encrypt them and so on. Okay, what we can do is create quickly. I will show you in a few minutes. We can create a trainable classifier called, for example, let's pretend my company is Contoso. Contoso client contracts. And then I just follow step-by-step wizard. And then what I need to do is to point my trainable classifier to a folder that contains, if Microsoft hasn't changed, at least 50 files for analysis. And then Microsoft will spend around 7 days going over those files to understand the pattern. And then Microsoft will detect, oh yeah, every single client contract has client name, client address, primary contact, maybe the tax number, and some key information. And then from there, the system will be able to learn that pattern. And then later on, when we create a rule to auto-protect, auto-label the files, the system will be trained to understand and take actions over that. It's really top-class feature. And then, of course, the last thing is to classify the data. Please remember, every time when I'm talking about, classifying the data is to do, two things. First could be, maybe just add a visual marking saying, oh yeah, this is a client contract. It's not protected, it's not encrypted, nothing. Just there is a mark on the file. And then when, our users are working with that file, they, oh yeah, this is a client contract. I need to kind of, pay attention. I shouldn't print, I shouldn't send via email or so on. Or we can implement the controls as well. Anyway, that's the tip of the iceberg. And then now, if you're getting tired, let me just present these 2 slides, and then I will give a break on the slides and jump into a real demo just to make things more interesting. Okay, when it comes to the data classification, guys, first of all, I just will create a control based on the pattern, I want the system to use. And then I will say here, oh yeah, when the system finds any file, any email, or, anything on my system that, follow the patterns from a credit card, I want to add a watermark on the file, for example, saying, oh yeah, this is Contoso credit card. And, the size will be 14, it's going to be red, and, it's going to be in diagonal. Okay, that's what I want to do. The thing is, guys, now very important. This classification can be done manually or can be done automatically. I will show you both. Unfortunately, if you want to have that automatically, the system will use the internal controls to understand the pattern and then do the classification, and then you need an additional license. Okay, if Microsoft hasn't changed, you need here Azure Information Protection, or AIP P2, Premium 2. That license does the automatic classification, encryption, and so on. If, let's say, your organization doesn't have that, and then the option would be to, let's say the only option, to be honest, is going to be to teach the end users to do that manually. I will show you in a few seconds. When they are working with a file, oh yeah, this file is a client contract. Then, I will show you in a few seconds. They need to click here on the protect, and then, from here, select, client contract or company high high security and things like that. Okay, anyway, I will show how to implement both, but in order to have the fully automated, unfortunately you need a bit of you need a license, okay, for that. And then the end is going to be like this quick picture. The system detected a credit card details in here. If we have the license and all the controls done correctly, yeah, the system will do two things. First, add a watermark, and second, basically protect the file. Here, protect the file that is going to be read only, means user can't print, can't take screenshot, can't make it change, can't forward, via email and so on. Okay, but before I can show, how this thing really work, I need to talk. I gave a quick intro, but I just need to finish up here and then I will show my demo. Guys, in order for you to be on top of, implementing data classification with visual markings and data protection, what you really need to understand, step number one is to be on top of sensitive info types. Okay, as quickly I said, at the moment there are around 360 different templates for Germany, templates specifically for Ireland, templates for America, in general templates for finance sector and so on. If you are looking for something very specific, no problem, you can create on top of those 260. How many more do you want? Maybe to identify your client contract. If you work in a hospital, maybe you can create a template to identify every time the patient's data and things like that. Is very important for you to understand well how it works, because when you have the sensitive info type created, all of those things basically benefit from there. Okay, I'm going to today show how to use the data protection and data loss prevention, but e-discovery, okay, I want to find out every single file, every single email on my organization, if those files and emails contain whatever the sensitive info type is. Could be credit card. Maybe somebody started sending the credit card data around different mailboxes, saving different files. Yeah, using e-discovery, we can find that information and then we can lock that information, or we could delete that information as well, as a combination of e-discovery and content search, okay, and so on. But anyway, guys, let's give a break for you. Maybe the slides are a little bit, tiring. Now let me show first how to build, how the sensitive info types work, and then a bit of more slides, and then I will show, how everything, can be implemented in that. Okay, that was part one. Now let me dive into my demo. Okay, guys, in order to start kind of, understanding and setting up the configuration, the place to go, as you can see in here, okay, is from your tenant, compliance.microsoft.com. Okay, that's step number one. Step number two, here on the left, click on data classification. Okay, click in there. And then there are a bunch of things that, is coming up. But from here, we can dive into what I was talking a few seconds ago, sensitive info type. If I click in there, let me see if I have good memory from last night. I think 260 something I saw. Oh yeah, okay, I was right. Okay, 264 actually, because one I created myself. 264 different, things. Let me, I forgot to check if there is anything specifically for Germany. Yeah, as you can see, guys, there are patterns ready to go to identify Germany identity card number, physical address, tax identification number, value add. You guys know those things better than me. If I try here things specifically for Ireland, and then I should get a couple of things as well. Yeah, the PPS number is like the American social security number, and some other specific things here for EU, or maybe I need to type Europe. Yeah, I don't, yeah, anyway, as you can see, in general, for all the EU credit cards, debit card, passport number, and, all of those things. But guys, if you are implementing, whatever the protection you need, and then eventually you want to do a auto discover and a auto protection, but the pattern you are looking here, is not available, no problem at all. What we can do is the following. Sorry, I need to go back to one slide. Guys, sorry about that. I know everybody at this stage is very tiring of talking about, COVID-19, but let me just give you an example. Okay, last year I got a text from our, government in here in regards to my vaccination. All the data is in here. I just, decided to hide my age. Yeah, anyway, it doesn't matter. And anyway, and then I took that as an opportunity to build a custom info type. I thought, okay, every single, let's say, vaccination communication the local government here in Ireland is sending out follows this pattern. Name of the person, the age, appointment number, when, where, the vaccine type, and so on. And then what I did, yeah, no problem at all. With no time, I will show in a few seconds. I created a new info type, and then here I just added those key value, that kind of pattern from the company communication. Again, could be a client contract, could be, anything. What I did, to be honest, is not really too complicated. If I go back to here, let me just quickly search. Yeah, to create a new sensitive info type, just click on create sensitive info type, just to show what exactly I did. Yeah, that's fine. Just add it, whatever the name. Let me click on edit. Name, a quick description. Okay, next. And then, of course, here is very important to set the pattern. Okay, what's the pattern to identify, some key information? And then I came here and I added a couple of key lists. I took exactly from that, government letter. Appointment number, when, where. Of course, guys, here we can go for some very fancy and more complex information with strings, with, oh yeah, the first 4 characters are letters, the next 3 characters are numbers, and then there is exclamation mark. We can do something very fancy. But anyway, I just kept simple in here. Okay, that's fine. That's, step number 1, to make sure the information types I need for my organization, they are all in place based on, if I can, I will use the built-in. If it's, not enough, I can create my own patterns, no problem at all. Okay, now guys, before jumping into the protection and all of those things, let me just run one quick demo, how let me do a reverse engineering. First, let me show how the system, how is the end user experience, and then I will show, on the back end what I build in order to do the auto protection and auto labeling and all of those things. Okay, anyway, step number 1, I created a custom info type. Step number 2, now let me show the end user experience. Okay, that's fine. Guys, I have here a virtual machine with a user called Alex. It really doesn't matter. Now, let me just get that letter. Yeah, let me start with this one here. Okay, this is exactly the text, I showed you before. I got from the Irish government. And then the pattern is in here, appointment number, when, where, and so on. Okay, that's fine. Let me now just copy that info. And now what I'm going to do, right click, new, the user, it doesn't matter if the user is creating a file on SharePoint, OneDrive, on the local kind of, drive, local drive, or even Google Drive and so on. If you have the controls, okay, COVID-19, appointment. Okay, that's fine, no problem at all. Let's say the user now is, as you can see, guys, here, just a second. Yeah, as you can see in here, I have the labels ready to go. A label called general, confidential, high confidential, credit card, and COVID-19 label. If your tenant doesn't have the right license, you need to teach the user, oh yeah, come here and click, on the COVID-19 if it's related to that. Click in here if you're dealing with credit card. But what I want to show is the auto labeling and auto protection. Okay, now the user, just typed that file. Nothing happens, at the moment, but by the time the user click on, because, at the moment is on memory, by the time the user clicks on save, and then, yeah, the magic happens. At the moment, I just added a quick watermark, COVID-19, whatever, and then, yeah, it's done automatically. But I decided, let's say based on the company policy and so on, I don't really need to protect this file. And then if I show you, click in here, click in info, can you see the file is not protected? Why? Yeah, because, it's confidential, but it's not the end of the world. I just want to notify the user this is related to COVID-19. On the next example, I will show how the same approach can be applied and auto protect the file for the users, not be able to, unless they are part of a specific group, they won't be able to share the file, print the file, make changes, and so on. Okay. Anyway, guys, that's part one, just to show the end user experience. Of course, guys, eventually, if my policy allow, the user is, oh, no, that's actually is wrong. This is a general file. The user can still come here and manually, change the label. Of course, that depends my policy. I can say, no. Once the system detects a label, the user can't change. Or eventually, if the user wants to change the label, the user needs to provide a justification. Just type why the user is changing. I will show that in a few minutes when I get to the configuration. Anyway, guys, that's kind of, I just quickly wanted to show what is the end user experience when the auto labeling is enabled, if you have the controls and if you have the license. And in the worst case scenario, if you don't have the license, of course, we still need to control. You can always teach the user, how they can change the label manually in order to kind of, follow the company best practice. Okay. Anyway, that was only labeling with no protection. Now let's keep moving and see. Oops, let me just see. Now the next step is, let me go back to here. Okay, guys. Now when this is done, then okay, done that. Okay, now the next step is, let's talk about protection. Oh my goodness, I could stay now here for the next maybe 4 or 5 hours if I really want to explain, every single of those, protection control. But let me just give a quick overview, and then I will focus on Azure Information Protection and, the encryption. Anyway, Office 365 messaging encryption. Yeah, that's a quick solution in order when you are sending emails internally or externally, we can use that to protect the email, to make sure only the destination mailbox is able to open and read whatever, you are sending via email as well. Okay. The next one is a customer key. Some companies, big kind of, challenging companies, they could maybe challenge Microsoft. I would say challenge Microsoft. They could say, no. We can't. What is the encryption key Microsoft is using to protect our emails and to protect our, data? Now, we don't want or we can't trust on Microsoft. We need to use our own kind of, a key. Yeah, no problem at all. Following some advanced configuration, companies can upload their own encryption key, and then all the encryption, all the protection that is done internally on files, emails, database, or whatever is used by the company own encryption key instead to use our internal Microsoft key. Okay, we can do that as well. Usually, some highly regulated, organizations, they might need to implement that. And then there are some specific control, information rights management, for SharePoint, we can implement as well. And yeah, rights management connector we can do as well. The Azure Information Protection Scanner. That's, guys, is the, as you can see in here, when we are talking about on-prem, we need to kind of, extend that quick demo. I just showed you how to auto-protect and auto-label files. We need to extend to the on-prem files. And then the Azure Information Protection Unified Labeling Scanner, okay, is the tool we can use to kind of discover and label the files as well, okay? Microsoft Defender for Cloud, that's a very powerful tool, and this is absolutely brilliant. Okay, especially when it comes to session control. From session control, I can say I can control the copy and paste from sensitive information. It means if an end user is copying something, let's get an example. That is a credit card details and trying to paste into a Gmail or something that is kind of not an authorized destination, the session control can block that. The Control V, Control C, Control V. Okay, we can do that. Okay, just a second. Okay, and then, Microsoft Purview, data map, and, the SDK and other bits and pieces, especially for you guys. If you are a developer, you can implement some controls in that, using the SDK from Microsoft as well. But anyway, let's stop talking and let me show now, the whole protection, how it works. Before I jump into my demos, here is a quick, because I don't have that on my lab. Guys, if you're implementing the Defender for Cloud session control, yeah, this is the way, okay, you set the rule. I can say, okay, if the devices are tagged as not compliant, okay, the device and my organization is not compliant if the firewall is not on, if the antivirus, signatures are old, if there is no antivirus at all, if it's not Windows 10 Service Pack 1, basically we set the scene, and if the device is not compliant, every time my user try to copy a sensitive data, again, can be anything. In this case, I decided, to pick the company credit card number. If the user try to kind of, copy and paste that information in different places, it doesn't work because, as the name suggests, the session policy will block the user in kind of pasting that information in an unauthorized place. It's just, brilliant the way it works. Anyway, guys, let me show one more end user demo, and then I will show all the configuration that must be done on the back end, eventually, to show how things work on the front end. Okay, let me dive to my virtual machine again. Guys, initially, I will do the same quick demo, but not now with credit card. Okay, if I go here, as you can see, guys, in, of course, any, credit card is very easy to understand the pattern. Every time, somebody is sharing credit card details, it always is a credit card number, and then the expiration date, and then the CVC. And I forgot to add here, the address as well. But, those three, I want to say every time an email or a file or anything that is, is holding that information, I want the data to be protected. Yeah, one more time, let me show the end user experience, and then finally I will show how you can implement those controls yourself. Same story, very quickly here, Contoso, new credit card, just to save a bit of time. click in here. Okay, that's fine. The user save, nothing happens. The user saves now the file in, watermark, and the file is protected. Just to show you, if I go to file info, yeah, as you can see, the file is fully protected only for my organization. And then, guys, I will show on the next demo. Protected means I could say, yeah, anybody from the finance team can print, can change, can send via email, can, full access if the guys belong to the finance department. Any other employee in the organization can only read. No print, no screenshots, nothing apart reading. Anybody outside of my organization, no access at all. Okay, no access at all. If I close this file, let me, I think, just open one more time. Yeah, can you see, guys? Here you can see, here you can see the permissions. Now, if I click on here are the permissions. My user called Alex, okay, because he is from the finance department. Yeah, Alex can view, edit, copy, print, can do pretty much anything. But, for the rest of my organization, I could say only view, nothing else, okay? Here, guys, I have, yeah, this is a file that was protected by another tenant, okay, a tenant called Fabricant. I have, and because Alex doesn't belong to that tenant, eventually, let's say Alex managed to get access to the file, to have the file, but when Access tried to open the file, double click. Yeah, as you can see, now the system, oops, this file is protected only for people from a company called Fabricant. Now, if Alex try, hopefully I have the credentials here, just a second, guys. Just need to borrow from here. Okay. Okay, it should work now. Okay, there you go. Alex from, not from the other tenant. If, hits next, I should get a message now saying you have no access. And yeah, can you see? You are not signed into the Office account, that permission, so on. Yes, because on my, just to buy time on a second tenant, I created that protected file and I didn't add Alex. And yeah, that's, what the user will see and no way to get access on this information. Anyway, this is what's happened with the end user. Now, finally, let me show the controls I implemented to have that thing working. Okay, step number one. I created, the sensitive info type for the COVID, and I used a built-in info type, and I use a built-in info type called credit card, okay, that detects the credit card pattern from, yeah, I believe, all the credit cards around the world, should be here. Yeah, this one here. Okay, now let's finally implement the control. To do that, I need to go here on the left. I still into the compliance.microsoft.com. Let me go into the information protection, click in here. And then there are two steps, okay? On top of the sensitive info type, there are two steps. Step number one, create a label, okay? The label is the place where I decide what is the pattern I want to identify and if I want to auto-protect, auto-label or not. As you can see, there is a control for COVID and there is a control for credit card. Let me start with COVID. And of course, what I did before, because by the time you create this control, it takes a while to replicate the information. This is why I created, yesterday, as you can see. Okay, yesterday I created this control. Anyway, click in there. Let me click on edit. And now let me show what I did. Very simple, just a name, a quick description. Okay, now very important, guys. Where I want this control to be used. Okay, I forgot, I don't say I forgot, I didn't enable some other resources like groups and sites and so on. But right now I'm looking to protect Office files, Power BI, some Azure files and stuff like that. Okay, click next. Okay, very important. What do you want to do? Do you want only to add a watermark, okay, or you want to protect, okay, you want to encrypt the data? As I told you before, for the COVID, I decided, it's not very sensitive. I just want to mark. That's fine. Click on next. Okay, and then here I decided to mark. Here is the place where I decided to add that little text or say size, what's the color, and very simple like that. Click on next. Now, very important, guys. If you have the right license, and then you are able to do the auto labeling. Okay, otherwise, this control will be off. And then, as I told you before, you need to teach the users to do that manually. Okay, and then what I did is I enabled, and guys, what I did was this. I just, I have that already, but I just came here. Okay, how the system should detect the content using sensitive info type or using the trainable classifiers. Trainable classifier is the kind of machine learning identification. I decided to go for sensitive info types, and guys, here are the 265 types. One of them, which I already took it, is the COVID 2019. Oh yeah, maybe could be something specific for Germany. Very simple. Okay, this is the place now where I added what is the pattern I want to get in order to do that. Okay, and then I want to automatically to label those files. That's fine. Click next. Okay, yeah, those options because I didn't enable for other things. Guys, that's fine. And believe or not, this is what I did. Okay, that's step number one. But the thing is, if you create the labels and you stop here, the users, when they go, when they are working, okay, in here, they won't see the labels in here. Okay, the next step now, I need to publish those labels. And the beauty of that is you can publish the labels to different users. I could have here maybe 3 labels only for finance, 5 labels for the guys from the marketing and so on. But before talking about publishing the labels, let me just quickly show the credit card label, and then I will show how to publish. Same story, guys. Before yesterday morning, I created on create a label, and then what I did, I set a name, quick description, all good, same story. Oh yeah, the only additional step, I decided I want to encrypt any file, email, Power BI reports and stuff containing credit cards. Next. Okay, now very important. What I want to do is first assign assign a permission automatically, or guys, I could allow the user to decide whatever the permission the user want to assign. No print, no forward, and so on. No, I want to assign automatically. Okay, what permission I want to assign? Guys, I decided to everybody. Oh no, I did the opposite here. Yeah, yeah, doesn't matter. Everybody from my organization will be co-owner. It means, we'll have full permissions. No, there's a typo. Sorry about that. Yeah, let me just quickly change. Okay, everybody makes more sense to be viewer. Yeah, I think I did that when I didn't have a proper coffee. And only the guys from finance, these are the guys with full permissions. Okay, save. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's the right thing. But what I can do is click on assign, and then here is the place where I can even specify external email or an external domain. Let's say Contoso, is running a partnership with a company called Fabricam. Okay, and then here is a place where I could specify anybody from Fabricam, okay, will have read access or full access or, whatever you want. But if I don't change anything, this is what stands. Guys from the finance, full permissions. Anybody else on my organization, only view. No print, no screenshots, nothing. And anybody outside of my organization, they will never get access on those files. Another really interesting thing, guys, is here. Usually I get this question quite a lot. Okay, but and then it means the users, they must be connected on the internet in order to work with the protected files. Yes or no? Depends the configuration. Okay, if I set here never, okay, user access to content expire. Okay, I could say no, sorry, this one here. Sorry, this one here. Okay, if I keep as always, yes, every time the user opens a file, the system needs to communicate to validate the user, and then we'll provide access or not. I could say, maybe only for, I don't know, 3 days. Okay, the next 3 days, the user can keep working with the file. After 3 days, the user needs to validate on the internet, otherwise it doesn't work. Okay, I will make like that. Guys, this option is brilliant. I could say this file only will be available for the customer I'm sending now for the next, maybe at the end of the month. Okay. After Sunday, July 31st, the users, a part of the, the guys with the owner, okay, the users won't have access on that file anymore. It doesn't matter if the file is on the email, is on a sorry, in the stick, it really doesn't matter. Okay. For now, let me say never. Guys, that's pretty much it. Okay, and then, same story, what I told you before. I added a watermark, the watermark to do the auto labeling and auto protection. In same story, here's the place where I decided to do the auto labeling and auto protection using a sensitive info type, okay, called, I'm using the built-in credit card. Okay, next. Next. This is the configuration, what I did. But as I told you before, if I would stop right now, the users, they won't see the credit card label in COVID. What I had to do next is go to the label policy. And then I had to create, at least one policy in here to assign those policy, the COVID label, the credit card label, and the other, three in there to assign for, here is the place where I can add different policies. Here is the place where I can decide, as quickly I told you, only for the finance department, only for the marketing department. In my case, it's just a demo. I wanted to add for everybody. Okay. Here's the, what I told you before, a couple of things. I want to, the users, they must add a label when, using emails and documents. I want them to do that. I want to force them to add a label for Power BI and so on. Okay. And if the user want to remove the label, they need to kind of, provide a justification. I could set a default label, okay, for my documents, maybe as, general or, whatever, but I decided, I don't want a default label. If the user doesn't pick anything, it's not going to have a label. Same story, default label for emails and, a default label for Power BI. But in my case, I don't want anything. And guys, that's pretty much, what I did. Now having the three things, I created the sensitive info type, I created the labels, and then I published the labels to my end users. And then thanks to these three elements, working together, the users now they can benefit from the manual labeling, auto labeling with watermark or, protection. Before we are getting there, if you're a little bit tired, guys, two more things before we go. Next one is, some companies, that's brilliant, we can, teach our users and so on, but, how can I have visibility of what the users are doing when it comes to labeling, auto labeling, manual labeling, and so on? Okay, the two places interesting, to go is if I go back to the data classification, the next one here is the activity explorer. If I click in there, that's really cool. Usually it's quick enough, all the latest bits and pieces I did today. Yeah, guys, as you can see, it only takes, a couple of minutes, in here. Alex read the content from my Contoso new credit card, and so on. Yeah, if I click in here, now I can see what's happened, don't try to hack my house, okay? The IP address, the file, what's happened, what's the file name, what is the username, what is the label, happens, and, really cool, the location where that thing, happens, SharePoint, OneDrive, and so on. All the information is in here. I can see as well what are the labels. I haven't talked about the DLP, so far. And yeah, if the labels happen on-prem or on Exchange or SharePoint and, other bits and pieces in here as well. Yeah, I think last night I was, just finishing the prep for today. And then I sent an email that got auto labeling as well. And, all of that story. Okay. Next step, guys, is I can go into the Content Explorer. And my goodness, this is brilliant. Now in my organization, I can see, how many files contain credit cards. Okay, and those files and emails, emails on Exchange, files on OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams. And then if I click, for example, on SharePoint, if I have the right permission, I think I added before, I can now kind of, just navigate and guys go into the site collection that holds those files, 4 files here, 4 here, and 1 here, the files holding the credit card details, and if I have permissions, I could even open those files. Okay, that's from the kind of explorer point of view. Anyway, this is part 1. Okay, I spent quite a lot of time talking about that. Now the next step I want to show you, is the prevent. Oh yeah, there you go. The next step now is prevent data loss. That's part 2. Guys, I want to make sure if somebody by accident or maybe not is trying to kind of leak, is trying to send some sensitive information type, some sensitive information out of my organization or even between departments, we can do that. I want to make sure it blocks. Okay, again, the controls I can implement say, oh yeah, if the finance department wants to exchange credit card details between them, that's fine. Maybe it's not fine, but anyway, let's say from the policy point of view, I will allow that. But anybody else trying to exchange credit card details, not being part of the finance is not going to work. And if they try with people outside of our organization, even worse. And then I really don't want them, to do that. This is all about data loss prevention and so on. There is a specific variation for that called Endpoint data loss prevention. As the name suggests, we can implement that control on Windows 10 and 11 to, as quickly I told you before, if somebody sticks a USB external hard disk and try to copy some files, the system will block any copy files to an unauthorized location, like external hard disk. But it's always nice to see how things work. Yeah, let me run a demo. Guys, same story. First, let me show the end user experience, and then I will show how you can build, the configuration yourself. Okay, now same story. I'm still in compliance.microsoft.com. Here on the left, now I need to go to data loss. No, sorry. First, I need to show the end user experience. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. Now, what I want to show is the following. Let's get, credit card. This user wants to send this credit card to an external, destination, or could be even for a colleague. Okay, the user will try to send first via email. Okay, mail.office365.com. Okay, all good, everything works fine. And now this guy, I think I implemented to block even internally, is trying to send that credit card details to Alan. Okay, Alan could be internal, external, whatever is the content. Contoso credit card, let's say, credit card. Okay, and then whatever the information is. Now the now the system is already verifying, okay, the content, and then in a few seconds, yeah, just about, as you can see, your email message conflicts with a policy in your organization. Your organization automatically applies sensitivity for credit card labels and so on. But even guys, if you think, how about if I type really quickly and hit the button, next straight away? Is not going to work. Okay, right now, because I got the policy already, if I click on send, as you can see, this message includes blah blah blah, and is impossible to leave this information is not going to be delivered for that user. Even if I paste the information, and before getting that alert, I click on the button here to send, it doesn't work at all. I already tested that before. Anyway, this is thanks to the data loss prevention. Second quick example I can give you, if now the user, oh no, I really need to send that to Alan. Yeah, no problem at all. How about if I send that via email, here via a text. Okay, and then if I send that via text, usually it takes a couple of seconds. Okay, and then the information, as you can see, the information is blocked. Again, guys, you could control if this is for an internal user, it should be fine, but if it's for an external user, we want to block. Okay, these are, and then I could, keep testing here. If I go to SharePoint or OneDrive and try to share with, a file with an external user, if the file contains sensitive information, the DLP will deny that. Okay, what did I have to build to implement the data loss prevention is the following. If I go to data loss prevention, okay, click in there, and then yeah, I had to create a policy. I went to policies, and then as you can see, guys, I already created, to buy a bit of time, yeah, yesterday morning, a credit card DLP. But sorry, I could click on create a policy just to show exactly what I did. I should be, oh, I need to click on edit. Okay, click edit. Yeah, same story, add a name, add a description, click on next. Oh, really nice, guys, really nice. Here I have the control where I want the DLP to, to act. Maybe could be only on Exchange emails, only on SharePoint, only on OneDrive. And as you can see, guys, I could create a specific DLP only for the guys from finance or only for the managers and so on. I could create a DLP specifically for a site collection. It doesn't need to be the whole SharePoint, or maybe specifically for some devices and so on. For me to play safe, I decided to to add for everything, everything and everyone. Click on next. Same story. What is the pattern I want to use for the system to identify the content? And then exactly what I did before, I clicked on add rule. And then from here, you already are familiar with that. I selected sensitive info type, and then I selected basically a credit card. Could be COVID, could be, the Germany driver license, could be the EU passport, whatever you want. And then I selected that. There are some other rules I can, apply if I want to notify the administrator, maybe the compliance manager, and those guys. And guys, that's it. Click on next. Uh-huh. And then, yeah, because that could maybe disrupt, the whatever the work your users are performing. And then initially I could set as a test just to kind of collect a bit of information, see how many users and how much information will be affected. And then I could, keep off. Eventually, if things are giving us too much headache, I could, disable for a while. But in my case, is enable. This is why it worked. Guys, and that's pretty much. Okay, this is what I did when I implemented the DLP. Anyway, tests, have some more slides, but this is what I already presented. Anyway, this is the kind of, I would say the tip of the iceberg, but a kind of summary in 1 hour and 15 minutes what you can do when you start exploring all the kind of the features under the Microsoft Purview information protection. Part of this solution in order to implement the security by encrypting the data is done via Azure information protection, Premium 1 or Premium 2. As I told you before, P1 allows manual labeling and protection, and P2 allows auto labeling and protection. Okay, of course, in a kind of it can be complex enough in a complex environment. You need a project, to do that, to implement, to do the proof of concepts, do the pilot and so on. But eventually, when you get it right, and then companies out there can benefit from the little tests I did in here in terms of labeling, protecting, implementing, and so on. Anyway, guys, that's hopefully you managed to learn some bits and pieces from my short presentation. And here I'm open if you have any questions or anything to add. I'm not sure, George, if you got any question on the chat box.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Sorry, I was muted actually. I don't think I got any questions.
No,
It
that's fine.
was, yeah, there were a lot of information, to be honest. I
Yeah,
am
yes,
trying
yeah.
still to upload everything up here because it's every time it surprises me the depth that we need to go to have a secure app, right? It's I don't know, it's crazy. Most of us that we are in this business, we know how to do A and B and C, I don't know, but this thing goes all the way to Z.
Yeah.
And the bigger the company, the organization, the bigger the responsibilities. So the bigger the need to have a specialist to actually do that thing.
Oh, no, 100%. Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Of course, you can always, initially create a demo tenant, start doing your lab and so on. But one thing is to do on your lab. Other thing is when you bring into the production. And that's, of course, is going to affect, files and emails and people. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, let's say the idea was to show an idea what are the capabilities, and then give a good understanding how to implement the controls. But of course, depends how complex the organization is. It's not something you do in a single week. That's a
Yeah.
proper project. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. I completely agree. And it's not only to build that, but also to maintain it.
Yeah.
Like the biggest the organization, the biggest the problems or the changes that will arise.
Yeah, we could be talking about dozens or hundreds of labels and variations and so on. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I'm happy to see all the Microsoft the improvements they are doing, because years ago when I started with Office 365 there was very few controls, and of course now 10 whatever 12 years later is really Microsoft is pushing the boundary. But of course you need somebody and knowledgeable, okay, to make the dream happen, to implement that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think in almost every field, full stack is dead, right? So you are a developer, sure, but you can have a specialty in .NET in the backend. You
Yeah.
can have a specialty, I don't know, in TypeScript or React.js. You can do both,
Mhm.
but can you be perfect in both? Most probably not. And the same thing comes here because security and privacy and all these things are
Oh, yeah.
so demanding nowadays, and especially around the world, right? Different rules here, different rules in another
Yeah. Mhm.
continent somehow. I don't know, Asia. So it's 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 certain that you will need someone to follow up on those
Mhm.
changes, those government changes. And what
Mhm.
happens if you have, for example, a set of users that they are here in Germany, GDPR rules, blah, 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 or let me rephrase that. If you have a set of users in United States,
Yeah.
which they don't have GDPR, and I'm just saying, I think the rules, privacy rules are a bit less, let's say, restrictive than here in Germany.
Mhm.
Uh, and you want to migrate or access it from here. You want to have a tenant that has users from both United States and Germany. How do you handle that?
Oh yeah, and then yeah, you need to be you need to review the compliance. But let's say, as far I know, let's say if you are physically in Germany, connecting, dealing with data out, even in America, because you are a German citizen and you are under the GDPR, let's say you could go, after whatever the company and requesting them to delete your data because your data you don't want to deal with them anymore and so on. But yeah, that's a kind of long story. In Avanade, I had other colleagues specialize into the privacy and the compliancy, and then better than me to answer this question. I more know how to implement, but that's a good question. Yeah, things can be a little bit tricky. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, the controls are there. Just you need to understand, let's say, the rules that apply for Germany, America, and then how to implement on Office Microsoft 365.
So you need a specialist in theory, a privacy specialist to know the laws and what you share there, and then based on that laws to digitalize them, let's
Exactly, yeah,
say.
to develop the policy, to develop, let's say, to put a request and then give to the, let's say, the IT guys like me eventually to implement the policies. Yeah, that's the kind of the way it works. Yeah.
Super. Thank you very
Okay,
much for
thanks
this.
very much, George, again for the opportunity to be here again talking to your community. And please make available the recording, then other people can benefit, later on, go
Definitely,
over
definitely
and
I will.
stop the video and review, all the steps I perform. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely I will.
Yeah.
Thank you very much then. Until
Okay.
next time, have a very interesting summer and vacations, of course.
Yeah.
Since I'm
Okay.
not going and you are going, at least, I don't know, do a dive for me.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, everybody. Thanks for joining and all the best. Enjoy the summer. Stay safe. Thank you. Bye.
Ciao, bye, bye.